Don't you love it when a video starts with a really good summary of what the video is going to be about? Yeah, me too. This ain't that kind of video. I'm not that kind of video YouTube maker guy. Nevertheless, you might think this video is interesting. I don't know, I haven't made it yet. And I don't have a script. You might think it's interesting because I tend to explain psychology and human behavior in ways that are not common, but other people who have expertise in this area will say that there is at least some value in these models. I'm going to talk about anxiety-like symptoms and depression-like symptoms. I'm not really going to talk about depression or anxiety. Instead, I'm going to talk about the things that we typically describe as anxiety and or depression and what feelings they produce in us, what actions they compel us to do, and what reactions we often use to avoid consequences that we don't really want. Both depression and anxiety usually include what I refer to as an amplification of negative emotions. For something to be a disorder, it needs to interfere with normal life functioning. That's the definition of disorder. That's not my definition, that's the definition. Implied in that definition is that whatever is interfering with normal life functioning doesn't normally interfere with normal life functioning. If a very close family member dies, and you have lots of sadness, that's not a disorder. It's interfering with normal life functioning, but we expect it to interfere with normal life functioning. However, if 3 years later, the sadness is interfering with normal life functioning, we would usually call that a disorder. Like with most things, when we're trying to understand it, it's usually a little easier if we use extreme examples. And I have an extreme example for you. A little while ago, I was on the computer doing some research. I'm using an AI chatbot, but I'm using their free plan, of course. The research was going well. A little status bar popped up. It says 3 messages remaining until 8 p.m. I can ask 3 more questions of this chatbot until 8 p.m. and then it will reset and I'll have more messages that I can send to the chatbot. How important is that status message? It's not really that important. It is a little negative. It is a limitation on what I can do. Until that point, the research had been going really well. So this status message was a little bit of this good thing is about to come to an end, but it's not that important, especially because when it happened, it was about 4 p.m. So I could send 3 more messages and then it would reset in just a few hours. This is a trivial issue, even though it's a little negative. However, I have anxiety-like symptoms and depression-like symptoms. One of the models I use to think about some of the symptoms of those 2 things is the amplification. This negative emotion that I felt, this limitation, got a good thing going, but it's about to come to an end because you don't have money, because it's asking me to subscribe, upgrade. It's only $20 a month, $20 a month. I'm on the free model for a reason. There really was some negative emotion involved in this, but it was really small. And then these anxiety and depression-like symptoms amplified it, magnified it a lot. I was about to type a new message and I went, I can't do that. I only have 3 messages remaining. That's the end of the world. That's not literally what I thought, but that is how I felt. In my opinion, that's a really important distinction. My physical body was prepared for an event of tremendous grief and tremendous loss. This is a type of loss. Before I received the status message, I only had 3 more messages remaining. My possession was potentially unlimited messages. And then, boom, status says, nope, there's a limitation. You only have 3. So what I lost was the potential of everything beyond 3. Yes, it's small. That's the point. But there is a loss. That's also the point. That loss is what our brains react to. We humans are very good at identifying losses, even potential losses, in these very ambiguous, intangible things, where I went from having potentially unlimited chatting with this chatbot to only having 3 more messages. That's a loss. We humans are very good at processing that faster than we can consciously process it. When someone close to you dies, for example, or moves away, for example, what are you reacting to? What is the loss? You didn't lose anything in the past. What you've lost is the future. But that doesn't make any sense because the future hasn't happened yet. So what you lost is the expectation of the future, the potential of the future. Before that person died or moved away, before you lost them in your life, there was the potential that tomorrow you could spend time with them and you would want that. And the day after that, and next week, and next year, there was the potential. And when that potential is lost, you have a loss. And we process that with the emotions of grief, sadness. Grief, be really specific. Grief is healthy. I'm going to paraphrase my mother on this one. She said that when a relationship ends or you lose someone, the part that hurts is all of the dreams and plans that won't come true. I think that's pretty insightful, and that's what she's describing. You have an expectation or the potential for something, and then when that's lost, that's the part that you feel that hurts, that's negative. I did, in fact, lose something, and then my symptoms, depression-like symptoms or anxiety-like symptoms, amplified that loss so that what it felt like was that I had lost something really big. Maybe all of my stuff got stolen again. That's what it felt like, even though that's not what happened. I didn't think in my head, oh, only 3 more messages. That's exactly like that time when all of my stuff got stolen. That's not what I thought. I didn't have any thoughts that were remotely similar to that. It felt like this was a world-changing, soul-crushing moment, but I did not have any thoughts along those lines. My thoughts were only 3? Oh, okay. I guess I'll be more economical with my messages. That's it. And then I thought, do I even have 3 more questions? I might only have 1 or 2 more questions. That's literally what I thought. But at the same time that my conscious mind is rationally stepping through the different implications of this new information, my emotions were saying, you're gonna die. It's horrible. This is the end of the world. You impoverished dickhead. That's how my emotions react. That is really difficult to deal with. That's why depression-like symptoms and anxiety-like symptoms can be so debilitating, because any tiny loss might get amplified into a world-crushing moment. It might not. I'll give you an example of a trivial event that doesn't usually lead to amplification with me. If you have something you're drinking, a cup of water, coffee, soda, whatever, and you have the desire to drink it, and you go and you drink it, and it's empty. That's a loss, right? That's how we just defined loss. The expectation that I had when I reached for it, when you reached for it, thinking you were going to drink it, was that you would be able to drink it. That was your expectation. That was your plan or your dream, if you want to think of it that way. Then you retrieved it, the drink, and discovered there's nothing there. You can't drink it. So you've now lost that potential, that plan, that dream, that opportunity. But it's almost certainly really trivial, really unimportant. Nevertheless, for some people in some situations, a depression-like or anxiety-like symptom might step in and just amplify that loss into something unbelievably important. It might cause them to feel that their entire world is collapsing. And the emotional part might be so overwhelming that their conscious mind, their rational mind, is trying to understand the emotions, trying to figure out why. Why are my emotions reacting so strongly here? What does it mean? And the rational mind is really good at finding patterns. And in the past, when our emotions, our bodies tell us danger, 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 there is usually some kind of danger. So if we find that our drink is empty and our emotions are telling us, oh, that's really bad, our conscious mind can connect the dots. There's an implication. I'm out of a drink and that's really, really bad. That means I might end up like becoming so dehydrated that I get seriously ill or die or something bad really happens. It could happen here. This is a really important event. I have to fix it. How am I gonna fix this? I have to get another drink. But the drink, it's in the other room. For me, I have to physically go outside of this room into, literally outside. Here, listen. Those dogs, they're in a completely different house. That's outside. So for me, it's not physically that far, but there are barriers and changes in between me and getting another drink. I have to physically go outside, which means if I don't have clothes on, I need to put on clothes. And if it's raining, I need to worry about that. If it's too hot or too cold, I have to worry about that. And do I even have a drink in there? I don't always. So maybe I'm not just out of a drink in front of me, I'm out of all drinks. Maybe. I don't remember. So maybe. And if I do have a drink, there's so many maybes and there's so many barriers. And in the past, those maybes and barriers have turned out to be bad things. And I need to prepare for them. Like putting on clothes to go outside. Why am I putting on the clothes? Because there's a risk that if I don't put on clothes, I'll wish I had. Like maybe someone will be out there and I'll be embarrassed. Or maybe I won't have foot protection on. I won't put on shoes or slippers and I'll step on something and it'll hurt or I'll fall because that gets really slippery. I almost fell yesterday. It was wet because it had rained 2 hours before, or 3 hours, and there was water that I couldn't even see, and I did slip enough that it hurt my back a little bit. So all of these things that I need to think about. I gotta put on clothes, it's raining. It's all about risk evaluation, because humans, our minds are really good at predicting things and understanding potentials, such as potential loss, potential risks, potential harms. So the human mind, when it encounters some people, when they have an anxiety or depression-like symptom, it amplifies the fact that their drink is empty into something huge. Their conscious, rational mind tries to understand the entire situation, figure out what that means. And it can very easily lead to conscious thoughts such as, this means I'm at risk of dying from lack of nutrition. And that's not crazy. It's an incorrect conclusion, but it's really not crazy. It's not completely 100% divorced from reality. Let me give you an example of something that would be. Oh, my drink is empty. That means the government has stolen all of my food. That is divorced from reality. Oh, my drink is empty. That means God doesn't want me to drink water. That's divorced from reality. But my drink is empty, and given the totality of the circumstances, such as that I'm poor, I don't know if I have other stuff to drink, I'm in bad health. In the past, I've gone days without having food or drink. That has happened to me. Therefore, I'm at risk. That's not crazy divorced from reality. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. That's the difference. That's super important, because when someone goes through this process and they come to an incorrect conclusion, it's really important that that person recognizes that the conclusion is incorrect, but not crazy. So back up slow down, redo the analysis, and the emotions you're feeling, don't completely ignore them, but discount them, meaning reduce their importance. Not all the way to zero, but reduce them. And it's important for people to understand that difference between an incorrect conclusion and a break from reality, because the people around them, someone else is apparently coming to a crazy conclusion, and they're overreacting. Why? Why are they overreacting? Are they overreacting because they're having a break from reality? Are they overreacting because their emotional response is being amplified by a depression or anxiety-like symptom? Being able to differentiate that is super important if you're trying to interact with that other person, because you're not going to get anywhere if you just go, you're overreacting. I mean, think about that for a moment. You're around someone, and let's assume that you actually care about them, you have a relationship with them, and in the future you want to have a relationship with them, and you look at them and you are absolutely convinced they are overreacting to some minor stimulus. Should you then react to that by going crazy yourself and having this huge, horrible, negative response? Holy fuck, that's stupid. That is the stupidest thing. So you have no business going, you're overreacting. That's idiotic. If your goal is to get that person to change their behavior And the behavior that you want them to change is that you think that a small stimulus has created disproportionately large reaction in them. Don't give them a large fucking stimulus and expect them to have a reasonable response to it. Don't do it. How should you treat them? I'm not going to tell you. That doesn't matter. First, we need to start with what's happening. What's happening with that person? If you really, really, really believe that they are having a disproportionate response, why? You need to know. Is it a break with reality? Or is it that a actual negative thing in their life and the emotions that it causes are being amplified to some level that is interfering with normal life function? Is that what's happening? Or maybe you're overreacting. Maybe something happened in that person's life and it was negative and they're having an emotional response that isn't really out of proportion. Maybe it's larger than you want, or maybe you just don't want to see it, and maybe you're the one not processing it really well. Maybe. But you gotta find out. And when you know why you believe they are overreacting, then you can start figuring out how you should handle it. But the answer is never gonna be, you should blow up and have some huge reaction. That's dumb. That's trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. It's not gonna work. So that's my model of amplification of negative emotions to the point that it interferes with normal life functioning when we don't think it should interfere with normal. I hope the perspective was at least useful, enlightening. Have a nice day.